So today we're doing dilations, and with dilations again, that is a similar, what's gonna happen is you're gonna get figures that are similar. This fits in that chapter when we did similar figures where you either enlarge them or shrink them down. And when you do a dilation, you need to know two things. You need to know at what point your dilation is starting from, okay? And you need to know what your scale factor is. And your scale factor, we use K for. Don't ask me why they use K for that, but that's what your scale factor is. And so what's gonna happen today, we're gonna do these on a coordinate plane. So you're gonna graph your first figure, and then either, if we'll talk about this, but if your scale factor is bigger than 1, your figure is gonna be enlarged. If your scale factor is less than 1, your original figure is gonna be shrunk or reduced. So this is kind of what they show you here. Your scale factor is 2. It starts with a dark pink and it enlarges to the peachy color. And then in this one, your scale factor is 0.5, so it's less than 1. So it starts with a pink and gets reduced down to the light pink peachy color, okay? So again, as I said, when you do these, what would happen is if you checked all your corresponding angles, they would be congruent. And if you did ratios of the sides, like small over small, medium over medium, large over large, those would all be in the same ratio, okay? So this right here is, you're gonna be given a value for the scale factor, which we use as K, okay? If your K is bigger than 1, that means your figure's gonna enlarge. If your K is less than 1, your figure's gonna shrink down. Okay, so they call it enlargement or reduction. If they ever gave you that K is equal to 1, that just means your figure stays the same and it's congruent, okay? I didn't put any on there like that, but just so you know, if K was equal to 1, it would just stay the same figure. So your orientation never changes when you do a dilation. Your angle measures are always going to correspondingly be congruent, and the two figures are similar. So here, your point at which they're dilated from, that is your center, and then they will tell you what K is, and in this case right here, K is less than 1. So your original figure, this is another thing, they call the original figure your pre-image and your new figure your image. So when you graph that pre-image and you put your points, you're just gonna name them A, B, C, D. Once you get the new coordinates for your new points, that's gonna be called the image. And what you do with that A is you make it A prime, so to look like this, okay? B will become B prime, C will become C prime, D will become D prime. And we'll look at that as we go through. This one, same thing, except your pre-image is the blue and your K or your scale factor is bigger than 1, so your new image is bigger than that, okay? Then I just need to show you how do you determine what your new points are, okay? So when you get these problems, you're going to have, like, your A might be the points 1, -2, okay? And you have to plot the new point for that. To do that, you have to know what K is. And K can be any number from 0 to whatever. The ones that I do, I try to keep them on the graph. So they're gonna try to make it so that you don't go off the graph at all. So my K's probably stop at 4. okay? But say this was 2.5, okay? My K is 2.5. What that means is your new point, how you figure that out is you just go 2.5 times your X and you go 2.5 times your Y. So your new point would be 1 times 2.5, which is 2.5, and then negative 2 times 2.5, which is negative 5, okay? So again, this is just K is our scale factor. If your K was ever equal to 1, they'd be congruent. If your K is either ever between 0 and 1, it's a reduction. If it's ever bigger than 1, it's an enlargement. And then we don't really use this today, so I'm actually not even going to talk about that. Okay, so we're going to try to do some dilations, but I just want to just show you one of each first. The red figure here is your original figure, and when we do these, we're going to be labeling like A, B, C. And then your new figure would be A prime, B prime, C prime, okay? Same thing here, the red is ABC, and your new figure would be A prime, oops, nope, not that. This one would be B prime, A prime, and C prime, okay? All right. So let's try one of these. Now, one of the things that I just noticed a mistake. I kind of remade up these notes yesterday, and so this should say center. And then when I had out the worksheet today, I made a couple of mistakes on that, which I'll tell you. So when you go to start one of these problems, we are always going to be using our center point. Oh, this shouldn't say center, it should say origin, I'm sorry. We're always going to use, for our center, the origin, okay? And then what we're gonna do here is we're gonna copy down these 4 points under pre-image. So the pre-image is always what you start with, and we're gonna copy it with their letters also. And L is 80 and M is 2, -4, okay? Now I think I'm gonna just figure out the rest of this right now. If this is 3/4, would your figure be enlarged or would it be reduced? Reduced because it's less than 1, okay? And then when I go to write this rule, okay, we're gonna go I'm gonna use 0.75 instead of 3/4. So this is gonna be 0.75 times X and 0.75 times Y, okay? So part of your answer will be circling which one this is and writing this rule, and then putting your pre-image points here and your image points here. Now let's go to our graph and let's graph our pre-image, okay? So our first point is -20, and our second point is 2.4. Our third point is 80, and our fourth point is 2, -4. Now, the reason I gave you the rulers, if you want to use your ruler, what you can do is use it to connect your sides. And then we're always gonna label those points. So the -20 was J, the 2.4 was our K, the 80 over here is L, and 2 -4 is M. Okay, now what I have to do is figure out what are the coordinates of my first point, okay, once I do a reduction of 3/4. So what you're gonna do, and you can certainly use your calculator for this if you need to, but you're gonna take all of these coordinates and multiply each one by 0.75, okay? So -2 times 0.75, we're gonna call this J prime, and -2 times 0.75 is gonna be -1.5. 0 times 0.75 is just 0. And then if you want to, like if you have, when you're doing your homework, if you wanted to, you could use 2 different colors if you have that, and you could do your first figure in one color and your second figure in another color. You don't have to do it that way. But now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna plot this new point, which is -1.50, which is right here. And then I'm gonna label that J prime. Okay? Now I'm gonna go back here and I'm gonna multiply 2 and 4 by 0.75. 2 times 0.75, this is my K prime. 2 times 0.75 is 1.5. 4 times 0.75 will be 3. But if you don't know that, you can just use your calculator for that. And then if you want to, you can come over and plot that one right away. It would be 1.5 up 3, and that would be my K prime, okay? Then I'm gonna try to do L, which is 80. And what I'm gonna do is take each of those points times 0.75. And if you went 8 times 0.75, you're gonna get your L prime, which is 6. And then 0 times 0.75 is just 0. So my L prime is at 60 here. That is my L prime. Okay. Then I have to do it for the last point here, which is M. So I'm going to make that M prime. And 2 times 0.75 again is going to be 1.5. -4 times 0.75, when you multiply that, you're gonna get a -3, okay? So now I can come over to the graph and graph that, and I would have 1.5 minus 3 right here, okay? And that would be M prime. Ooh. So that is M prime. And then what you would want to do is connect these, and you can use your ruler if you want to. Okay? And this is 0.75, so you kind of want to think about, is that like 3/4 of the figure that's there? And you might wonder, like, why is it closer here and closer here than over here? If you ever want to kind of look at it and say, like, does this make sense? If you think of connecting the center and drawing it through K and K prime, okay, you want to think, is from the center to K prime a 3/4 of the way as from 0 to K? Or like for 6, you would think, is from the center to L prime 3/4 of the way as from 0 to 8. So the bigger your number, the more distance is going to be between those, and that's why it's not equidistant going around. Okay? Everybody understand that? Okay, let's try another one, and this one is where we have 3 points, and this time it's 3 halves. So think about this, guys. 3 halves is, what is a decimal? 1.5. So is that a reduction or an enlargement? It's an enlargement because it's bigger than 1. And then for my rule here, I'm just going to go 1.5 times x and 1.5 times y. Okay, and then Another thing I should have here is that my center again is the origin. In all of these, you guys, the center is going to be your origin, okay? I'll grab you the notes. All right. So now when we look, I'm gonna copy down the 3 points with their letters again. So this is Q is -1, R is 0, 2, and S is 2, 1, okay? Now I need to figure out what my Q prime is, what my R prime is, and what my S prime is. And when I do that, I am taking each of my coordinates here and multiplying by 1.5, okay? So if I multiply 1.5 times -1, I get -1.5. If I multiply 1.5 times another -1, I'm gonna get -1.5. For the second one, if I go 1.5 times 0, that's 0. 1.5 times 2 is 3. 1.5 times 2 is 3. 1.5 times 1 is 1.5. Okay? So now I have to come over to my graph and I have to graph both of those. Okay? So I'm going to graph the pre-image first. So Q is at -1, -1. R is at 0, 2, and S is over 2 up 1. So I would connect those. And again, this is going to be Q is here, R is here, and S is here, all right? Then I'm gonna go ahead and plot my new figure, which is -1.5, -1.5. So just go halfway in between there. That is my Q prime. And then I can do 0, 3 right here. That is my R prime. And I can do 3, 1.5. That is my S prime. Okay? So now, if I connect those dots, okay, it's going to look something like that. Is that what yours looked like? Okay. Now, the last thing we're going to look at today is sometimes you have a original figure and you're going to do 2 dilations for it. So if you look at this one, your blue is your original figure. Your second figure is the green, and how I know that is it's R prime, S prime, T prime, and so on. And then the red is the second dilation. And how I can tell that is instead of R prime, what you would use is R double prime. Okay? That's how you read that. So here is what a question would look like where you do 2 dilations. Okay? So, if I go back, what you're going to do is just like we did it, looking just at the dilation. Okay, first dilation. And the first dilation is 1/2. So that means that first dilation is a reduction. My rule is going to be 0.5x and 0.5y. And then if I copy my points down here, C is going to be -7, -3. D is going to be -7, 6. And E is going to be 1, 3. Okay? Now, when I go to do my image from that, I'm going to multiply every coordinate here by 0.5, and that will give me C prime. So half of -7 is -3.5. Half of -3 is -1.5, okay? Then when we go to do D prime, half of -7 again is -3.5. Half of 6 is 3. And when we go to do E prime, 0.5 times 1 is 0.5. And half of 3 is 1.5, okay? So now what I'm going to do is go to my figure here. And C is -7, -3. And I'm going to plot that. D is -7 up 6. That is my D. E is over 1 up 3. That is my E. Okay? And again, you would connect your dots. If you have pretty straight lines, just doing it yourself, I'm fine with you just kind of connecting the dots. But do your best to make them straight lines, not like curvy, if you can. Now on that same graph, I'm going to graph the new image there. So I'm going to go -3.5, -1.5, and that is my C prime. Then I'm going to go -3.5 up to 3. That is my D prime. And then I'm going to go for my E prime. It's at 0.5, 1.5. And that is my, whoops. That was 0.5, 1.5, and that is my E prime, okay? So now I can connect, okay? And again, if you wanted to check, does this look right? Think of if you drew a line from the origin to your C, and does C prime look halfway there? If you drew from the origin to your E, is E prime halfway there? If you drew from the origin to your D, is D prime halfway there? Now we have to take into account our second dilation. And with this one, you don't go back to the original figure when you draw them down here. You take these coordinates and draw them down there, okay? So we're gonna put down here that C prime is -3.5, -1.5. That D prime is -3.5, 3, and E prime is 0.5, 1.5. Okay? Now what we're gonna do is we still have to answer those questions under the second one. Is if this second dilation right here, they tell me that it's 4. Do you guys get? And you know what? I can't use 4 because that's going to go off the graph. So we're going to change that 4. Let's do, can I go by 3? I don't think so. Let's do our second dilation to be 2. Okay? So if I do that as 2, that is an enlargement. My rule would be 2x, 2y. And so now what I'm going to do is just take all these coordinates and I'm going to multiply everything by 2. So I get -7, -3. D double prime is -7, 6. And E double prime is 1, 3. Okay? So now I'm going to go back to that same diagram and I'm going to plot the last thing and I'm going to label it with C prime, D prime, E prime. So the first one's -7, -3, which, oh nope, I don't have to do that, I'm sorry. I was going to plot this again. I only have to plot this one. Does that end up being, oh yeah, that would. Sorry guys. Can we do this as 2.5? Sorry. As you guys are chuckling at me. Yes, let's do 2.5x and 2.5y. So that we have different points here. Okay, we'll try this again. So if I try this and I multiply everything by 2.5, we can check what is negative 3.5 times 2.5, and that is negative 8.75. And then if we checked what is negative 1.5 times 2.5, that is negative 3.75. And then if we do negative 3.5 times 2.5, again, we had done that one, so that's 8.75 negative. 3 times 2.5 is going to give us 7.5. Half 0.5 times 2.5 would be 1.25. And 1.5 times 2.5, that one we did up here, it's just negative. This one would be positive, so it's 3.75. Okay, so let's try this and try graphing it. So what I would do first is my negative 8.75, negative 3.75. Should be like right here. This would be C double prime. Then I would go negative 8.75, positive 7.5, which is right there. And that would be my D double prime. And then E would be 1.25, 3.75. So 1.25, 3.75 would be about there. And that would be my E double prime. So then we would connect those. And like I said, if you guys have like 2 different colored pencils or 2 different colored, did you guys get when you connect this, it's inside the second circle? Yeah. So, is that what yours looks like? Okay. So you guys are gonna get a worksheet today. And for this worksheet, I do have a couple mistakes on it, so I will let you